The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Sakash here again with my co-host, Mike Liskey, and our special guest. So, according to recent global workforce studies, a strong majority of employees say they would trade some level of pay or perks for more flexibility, autonomy, and meaning in how they work. And at the same time, many leaders are still trying to retrofit traditional top-down work models onto a world that is now more hybrid, distributed, and project-based. The tension is clear. People want more agency in where and how they work, and companies need reliability, quality, and accountability at the same time. The question is no longer whether work models will change, but which leaders will be intentional about designing systems that will work for both human and businesses. Today, we're exploring innovative work models and what they look like in the real world, especially in industries that are not usually at the center of the future of work conversations. Mike, introduce our guest today.
Absolutely, Stephen. I am delighted to, and I love how you put that in the intro. So our guest today is really none other than Alex Filipuk. You may know him as the CEO and the founder of Ideal Sighting. Now, Alex truly has a dynamic entrepreneurial background. His journey is quite varied because it spans multiple continents, sectors, and disciplines. In fact, born in Belarus and educated across Europe, he's built a career that blends technology, finance, and really hands-on operational leadership that we'll really dig into today. Now, before founding Ideal Sighting in 2019, Alex as well contributed to PayPal's European expansion, developed one of the first social media platforms in the Russian-speaking world, and built multiple successful ventures, including a performance marketing agency and even a translation company and a publishing firm with over 140 employees and actually quite a few construction businesses. So Ideal Sighting with that has quickly expanded through the franchising world across Canada and now in the United States. And Alex as well is now being recognized as an innovative leader in the home improvement space, designing really work models that bring structure, scalability, and opportunity to really a traditionally fragmented industry. So Alex, we are very much looking forward to our conversation today and hearing about your experience. So with that, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Steven. It's great to be on your show. It's a great topic, and it hits us on three different levels: on our support center, our headquarters, on level of franchisees, and also on level of installers, the crews that we have. So it's a lot of things comes to my mind when about it. So let's start.
Let's get into it. So, Alex, I know a lot of future of work conversations, they kind of, stay focused on tech or office-based roles, and those sometimes often get overemphasized, but you're building kind of innovative work models in a very different context with like crews on job sites. And of course, you got franchise partners and, local markets to deal with as well. When you think about innovative work models for the future, what does that phrase kind of mean to you, and how is it showing up in the way you've built Ideal Sighting so far?
Well, I think a lot of this happening with changes in generations that are becoming employees right now, and those generations that are retiring, their expectations, their lifestyle that they want to design for themselves. All of this is changing quite fast. And I think the curve of how it's changing is accelerating because of all the technology and advancements that we have with AI and travel, ease of travel, all of those things. So it's definitely a combination of things that are around expectations of how people want to design their work part of their life. And for every person is a little bit different, but there are patterns. So it's a very big topic. So I'm happy to start whenever, like whichever part you want.
Yeah, you mentioned those patterns. I think that might be a little bit more interesting. What patterns you've noticed?
So number one is, I think people don't want to work from 8 to 5 anymore. I think it's number one. Number two, people don't want to commute to office. Number three, people don't want to have preset career that have very little room for change, like in an army. All of that is connected to technology changes, to what's happening with outsourcing, what's happening with remote work, people moving between different states, and so on and so forth. So one of the main ones, I was surprised to see that half of the population of the United States have some part-time gig that they do on site, according to Upwork, that the research a while ago. And I would never think that half of the population of the United States have experience working remotely for a company. That was before 2020. The research was before 2020.
Wow.
And of course, 2020 accelerated this trend, and now we're in the. I'll give you an example of our kind of support center, our headquarter. We have a couple of people that were working from Spain a few months, working from Europe, other countries, from Mexico, and so on and so forth. And the reason, or they work from Vancouver, but they don't come to office that often. So the reason they love working with us is that they can go and live in Spain for a couple of months while working, while not losing this salary, income, and connection to the company.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking, should we buy office or bigger office, move in, build kind of nice place for people to come at 8 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And almost everyone told us that this is not what we want. We don't want a better chair. We don't want a better view. We want to stay at home. We don't want to commute. Part of it, commute got much worse in almost every city, right? So I spend over an hour every day on commute, and I wish I would have done it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd absolutely 100% agree with you. Having been born and raised in Los Angeles, it's a travesty, right, to be able to spend that. So, Alex, one question, maybe digging a little bit deeper into what you've intentionally done at Ideal Sighting, and there are some things that are broken about traditional work models, right? And you have a lot of experience, right? You've built businesses in a bunch of different industries and even countries, right? Because culture has an impact on what we're talking about today. So kind of looking across your experience, what would you say still feels broken about traditional work models? And then what have you intentionally done to try to counteract that and designing it maybe a little bit differently for your people?
Yeah, I've experienced being digital nomad when we had publishing company. We had no office. Everyone was in different continents. And I just would go to cafeteria, open my laptop, look through dashboard, work for a couple of hours a day. That's it.
Yeah.
Then I realized that I'm missing this social connection, that I actually want to work with people, actually want to go to office to talk to people, maybe not every day. What I've seen is broken the most is that companies still trying to micromanage people. And the way, like just one of the examples we were using Upwork quite a bit, and it tracks your mouse, it tracks your screen, what you do, and it's like you're like if there's a camera behind you that tracks every second of what you do, which is great for the company, but I don't want to work in this environment. So it's moving from micromanaging to what do you actually want to achieve as a company. You probably want results rather than fighting on who is doing what at which minute. And as byproduct for Ideal Sighting, what we have done our sports center is we look at Friday and it's like, well, second half of Friday, it's very hard to work. And the efficiency of your work on the last 4 hours of Friday are extremely low. So why why would we even work those 4 hours? So we decided not to work those 4 hours, but we still pay for those 4 hours. So we pay for the full Friday, but we only work 4 hours. Our employees, our partners, everyone loves it.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we can do the same amount of work in the same week, but our employees have 4 hours that they can spend on whatever they want. Maybe catch up with household chores, maybe go to bank. Another thing that I noticed once I started having kids is that you need to pick them up from school. You need to drive them to school. You need to drive them to swimming pool and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And the school ends at 3 p.m. and your work is still 5. So now, and very often, husband and wives both working, you need to micromanage all of this. And now your schedule is all around who picks up when, what's happened there, what's happened here. If you can work the hours that you can choose, this makes such a big difference. And then we support all of this with our franchisees who are saying, one of the reasons I want to start my business is that I can go and play tennis on Tuesday at 2 p.m. with my friends. Mm-hmm. And that I can watch soccer of my kids. And I can go on with my wife to this trip that we always wanted to. I will still work more hours than I did before because it's my business.
Right.
But this flexibility and again, it's not about micromanaging, it's about the result. If I can deliver the same result with less hours, I shouldn't be penalized for this. It's like we're penalizing employees for being good.
That I would say is definitely something that is broken, right? And it does the exact opposite of what we want as companies, right? We want to build trust within our employee base and with our customers, right? And instead, when you do micromanage, there's like a lot of lack of trust. But like you said, with the flexibility and then showing the results, it really, you build a lot of trust with your employees that way. Yeah, that's congratulations. And I'm very happy to hear, you have like a 4.5 day work week.
Yeah, that flexibility is such a big part, I think, of what people value. It's hard to compete sometimes against a job that's given you, hey, you need to go pick up your kids. Yeah, go do it. Just, take care of your work too when you can. And so you want to have that accountability. Obviously, they got to get their work done, but at the same time, they're living life. They've got families. And you mentioned, Alex, too, people working out of Spain for a little bit or working out of, some other location. I'm going through that right now. We're like relocated to a new city. I'm still working, in the same sort of hours and job, but if I need to, I can now go see my daughter or help her out, she's just 15 minutes away versus a plane flight. But I can still do the same kind of work. And that's hard to compete, I think, for people. If you're trying to retain your employees, you're going to have much higher retention. Is that what you're seeing? Is that higher retention because of all that flexibility?
100%, yeah, higher retention. But if you go a step further than this and you build everything remote, then you have access not just to local talent, but global talent. And this is key for any company that operates not a local level. If you are a local dentist that cannot hire people in another city, that's one thing. But most companies, they right now compete for talent across all geographies. And the only way to build a successful large-scale company is not to limit yourself with just local talent. But it's impossible to do if you don't have already those systems in place and the structure in place to allow it. Because what I didn't realize before we started publishing company is that people who manage people remotely need to learn how to do it. It's actually not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those that figure out how to do it are extremely successful. And those that didn't figure out how to do it, they believe it doesn't work. So they're going step back, and they're stuck with what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit, because one of the things we like to talk about here is like systems, particularly systems of kindness, things like that, where it's just the way you operate. So I know, you've kind of led a network of franchises and contractors and teams working across, multiple cities and countries. From a systems perspective, what have you put in place so that your work model kind of supports performance, quality, accountability, and the human dignity side of things at the same time?
Well, on the cruise level, we developed a system that treats them as professionals. What we have learned is that a lot of siding installers, they're treated as construction labor, even though they're very high-skilled carpenters. We changed it by transitioning to a professional approach, which everything is standardized, payment terms. We don't change anything, like it's always the same. And we treat them with a lot of respect, and we expect the same back. And as soon as they see the different attitude towards them, they typically prefer to work with us on every single project rather than work with someone else. So this is what we have built. It's kind of preset system. I cannot give you all the details of it, but I've never seen a company does it with crews, with installers. And the way we have done it is that it enables them be happy at work, earn 6 digits, and choose when they work, when they don't work. It's very similar to Uber when it comes to, I have one project in this area, this particular material, this is one I want to focus on more, because what we learned is that crews, similar to office people, don't want to drive 2 hours or even an hour to their project site. Sometimes they have to, but our job is to make sure that we give them projects that are very close to their home. And if we are successful at this, then they love working with us because they can do more during the day rather than commuting far away. So this is one thing that could, like, from outside it looks pretty simple, but it made huge difference. And now scaled, 90 locations, we see this difference across all markets. When it comes to our support center, centralized, call center, marketing, design, finance, all of those, we use EOS. So it's a entrepreneurial operating system, and once we implemented it, we see that this very basic structure of how to run business helps us to keep people in the loop, informed. They see their influence. They always have a voice in whatever is going on, but they also are accountable to the rest of the team. And it's weekly meetings where everyone see who's doing what. It helps us a lot to grow from this small startup that kind of everyone's in the same office to organization with about 30 people now.
Alex, I want to follow up on that. One point you made early on was the difference between being treated as a professional and being treated as a construction crew. For our listeners, describe what that difference really is.
Sure. I'll give you like raw examples. So so crew installer get penalized for smoking near the house, typically. Not in our case, but I mean, we don't want them to smoke next to the house. But what happens is a lot of companies, they add a fine, typically $200, $300 fine.
Wow.
And then the installer will get sometimes cut his wage like in half with those fines.
Wow.
Second is they change, so they agreed on a particular amount, and then when it's time to pay, they change it. And then they try to find things, reasons on, oh, you didn't finish this on time, or you did this. So there's very little predictability of the end result. Sometimes there's no contract, there's no even number that they work for. So those things all kind of basics, but when you look at retail or other industries, but when it comes to construction, special renovation, this is a common thing. And now the third very important one is crew agree on particular pay, and they finish the project, and the company says, yes, we'll pay you. We will send us an invoice. We'll send it to our accountant. Accountant is on vacation now, but she'll be back in 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, she will put you through our pay cycle. Our pay cycle is once a month, and then you'll be paid at the end of the cycle. So in another 4 weeks after those 3, and then I will mail you a check. It will probably take another week. So you will see money only in 7-8 weeks. And it sounds like they want to pay you now, but you still get your paycheck in 8 weeks. And it's done on purpose. Like, this is how companies manage cash flow. Why they cannot manage cash flow better? Because they are not professionals themselves. They don't know how to do it better themselves. So what we have done is, one of the things is, we get an invoice, we pay ACH the same day or the next business day. Once crews start getting money next day, they're like, I didn't know it's possible. Because in their mind, there's this accountant that releases a check, and it's like, no, it's not. Accountant gets your invoice and accountant records the transaction. But whoever initiates the payment, typically the owner of the company or someone like a general manager, they can do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, nice. Simple technology, right? That's been around for a while. Way to leverage the technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be not ACH, could be a check that they pick up same day. Like it's not about technology here. It's just the way how, like, imagine now this crew member goes back home, needs to pay mortgage, needs to pay for food, everything waiting for this 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Now this same company calls him and say, we have another project for you. He cannot say no, because if he says no, they'll say, well, we don't want to work with you anymore. And now this check is in limbo. And it's scary. So now he has another project. It's like and then the same thing, of course, happens with another project. Yeah. I've been in situations like this before with construction, in construction industry, on smaller scale, on a bigger scale, and I know how it feels. And we decided that for us, it doesn't make a difference to pay today or to pay in 8 weeks, because we manage our cash flow properly. Yeah. But for a crew, it's a huge difference.
I'd probably even go so far as to say that, the culture that you've built as an organization impacted, that thought, right, to get our cash flow working, better. And a lot of the points that you mentioned, there's research that we see about high trust, high empowerment cultures that shows that really people that feel that they're being supported, they end up being more productive. Like we talked about earlier, the retention is higher, but even the innovation rises, because they're obviously thinking about ways to want to improve versus being maybe looking out just for themselves. So Alex, I was maybe a little bit curious with your franchise organization, right? It's a big system, and in large distributed systems, you will find some variation, right? Some locations maybe thrive, and then others are really struggling. And I think you started to mention this maybe a little bit earlier, but I was kind of curious, like how you diagnose that these issues, what's really going on with the team, why it's maybe not performing. Like, how do your systems, I guess, help you maybe respond to that and diagnose it?
It's a great question, because what I've learned as an entrepreneur is whenever I meet with more experienced entrepreneur, someone wiser who've been running business for longer, they typically can ask 2-3 questions and then know exactly the reason, and they know exactly the problem. And I was always like, you don't understand my industry. You like, I've been doing this thing or that thing, and I don't understand how you get to the reason so fast. And what I realized later is that from the outside, and especially with experience, it's obvious. It's just sometimes we don't want to accept it, or sometimes we are just not as experienced.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens with franchisees. Our franchisees, most of them are in masterminds. So there is a group of six franchisees in one mastermind. They have a call every week. And when they have a challenge, they share it into the group. And for some number of people in that group, the reason is obvious. And they share it because, they want to win together. They share it with the person. Because when franchisor says, this is the reason, this is our dashboard, this is why, you're struggling here, people don't accept it. But when other franchisees say, listen, we are in the same boat. We do the same thing as you do. This is what you're lacking, or this is how I fixed it, or this is how I did it better. Then they listen. The ears are opening. So even though we have kind of scorecard to say this is better, this is worse, this is how you do it, go through this manual again. It only the most efficient way is when they share it with their group, and this group tells them, hey, man, no judging, but you need to do this.
Being in a collective group of your peers, it's so simple, right? But many organizations don't employ that, and I think that's great. That you connect people. It really creates a very genuine connection, and also you feel like you could be a little bit more vulnerable, right, and open with your peers. So Alex, I wanted to transition maybe a little bit to a topic that we love to talk about. It's one of the basis for our show, and that is purpose, right? What is the importance of purpose? Like what role does purpose play? Because really, when companies start to talk about innovative work models, the conversation can kind of quickly become very mechanical, or we start to talk about tools and things like schedules. But when an organization really zooms way out, it comes down to there was an original purpose for why an organization came to exist. So can you tell us maybe a little bit about what's sort of the deeper purpose with Ideal Siting, and then what are some ways that maybe you've designed within the company to integrate that purpose?
It's just kind of full disclosure. Purpose for me is different from purpose of our franchisees.
Yeah.
And we can, if you have time, we can go into this a little bit. But
yeah.
My purpose was that I knew that two things are happening in siding renovation industry. One, from outsider, right? I've never installed siding in my life. I was a computer science finance guy, publishing, translations. I was outsider to the industry. We had we were very successful generating leads for siding companies. So I was talking to them. They were my clients for a long time. But what I saw is that a lot of companies either charge extremely high amounts for the work that they do, or there's a second group that are just doing very sloppy work where it's very hard to predict if the quality will be good, if the project will be actually done. And in between, there are a lot of horror stories. There was one local company that collected $2.5 million in deposits and declared bankruptcy. Two owners bought brand new homes, brand new cars, and said, "This is my primary residence, this is my primary vehicle. That's it. You cannot take it away." They just spent $2.5 million, closed the company. 3 months later, they opened a new company doing the same thing. It's happening in every market. There was a company that was doing $380 million in the United States that went bankrupt a couple of weeks ago. What happened to all those homeowners? You might just imagine. They were doing siding, roofing, things like this. So Similar industry. The largest signing company right now charges twice what we do charge. We have better materials, we have better crews, we have better service, and we charge 50% of what they charge. This is mind-boggling to me because our system doesn't exist for franchisees to build businesses or for me to build a national company. It exists for homeowners to have access to a reliable company with predictable results. Like that's it.
Yeah. Well,
we are not like Red Seal. We are not like Red Seal carpenters. We have regular carpenters, but we have very, very good franchisees. There are two issues with renovation. It's typically greed and inefficiency. Mm-hmm. And we try to get people who are not greedy and who are efficient. And with those two things, you can save 50% of your home renovation. Like, to me, it's a great achievement. At the same time, we can pay crews more. We can pay suppliers on time because like there are so many things that before starting Ideal Siding, I flew to meet with the best siding company in the United States. And I thought, let's just see how they're doing. And I spent some time with them and I realized there's not a single thing that they do better than what I envisioned, like in theory, how the model should work. Mm. Then I started talking to other people who've been in the industry for 20 years. I was like, do you think this would work? And they're like, yeah, this should work. And then we did one test location, 2, 3, and everyone was telling us it would not work. Like, I mean, people who were outside of the industry. People inside the industry were saying, yeah, it actually might work. Mm. So that was my purpose, is to make sure that homeowners, when they're spending, because siding renovation is the most expensive piece of renovation. It's more expensive than kitchen or windows. When they're spending 30, 40, 50,000, that there's a reliable company. To me, in my head, there is always company, Mr. Rotor. And I was like, if I have a plumbing issue, I'm calling Mr. Rotor. For some reason, I just trust this company.
Yeah.
I know if something goes, like, again, I don't know if I'll get a good technician or bad technician, but if something goes wrong, there's a number I can call and I'll get there. Or Home Depot. We were doing blinds and I went to Home Depot and I knew that if something goes wrong, I can just go to Home Depot and say, hey, something went wrong. Take accountability, like fix it. So I wanted to build something in siding. Now with franchisees, they have their own purpose. They have their own reason. And this is a very, very strong kind of big part of our training to understand what's their BHAG, Big Heritage Goal, what's their why they're doing this. Because running any business is so difficult that if you don't have a strong reason internally of this purpose that you're doing it,
right,
you will give up. You will give up sooner or later. It's like you are hiking and you're going up the mountain and you go in there to see the view. If you stop midway, you don't see the view. Right. The only reason you go on this hike is to see the view.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a great, illustrative way to put it. You got to have that motivation there behind you. But I think, what a beautiful purpose that you have, and I'm sure that many of your franchisees share that same, right? They want to build a better company and provide a better service. Sure, there's building their nest egg and doing things for their family, but like you said, at the end of the day, what maybe has them go to work and deal with a difficult customer, because of course, not all customers are easy, is like you said, at the end of the day, you want to create a better organization and deliver top-notch service. And like you said, it gets rid of the greedy people. It gets rid of the inefficient folks, because they just their personal purpose just won't connect with the kind of purpose that you've created there.
All right, we've got an audience question. Let's go to that. Let's bring that up on the screen. So it's from LinkedIn. If young entrepreneurs came to you for advice about designing work for the next generation, what would you recommend?
Oh, it's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of research on next generation, and purpose, what we just described, is the number one thing. So if you're a young entrepreneur and you'll be hiring other young people, you need to find a reason that is bigger than salary, that is bigger than smoothie, and it should be something that they would believe in. But then your job will be to keep going until more and more people really start believing into it. To me, a great example of it is how Elon Musk created idea that we are here not building cars, we're here saving the world. Come, if you want to save the world, join us. Or Steve Jobs, when he was getting the guy from Pepsi, he said, do you want to sell sugar water or do you want to change the world? So for young entrepreneurs, you need to find some niche where you're saving the world, where you're changing the world, you're making world a better place. And it could be a pizza store, it could be whatever it is, but the whole idea shouldn't be about come work with me because I'll pay you salary. That was or I'll give you stability, or I'll give you a job. That would work with 2 generations before that.
Yeah.
For this new generation, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So
Perfect answer.
Yeah, I love it. So Alex, one question we always ask is some form of this. Is what role does love play in business?
Well, I think service business is all about love. I think service businesses, could be a restaurant, siding installation company, painting company, you're serving people. If you don't love people, if your heart doesn't have enough love in you, it will be very, very difficult for you to be successful at this. It should be we were talking at our last conference about love languages at work. So some people want to have words of affirmation, some people want to have more time with their manager or with the founder, some people want to have gifts from company. Like the pay structure wasn't the number one thing. There are different love languages. And when it comes overall about love in business, you have to love your customers, you have to love your employees, you have to love your vendors. Otherwise, you're becoming a toxic element in the industry that everyone will be getting rid of. To me, it's easier because I'm Christian and I have different level of love that I have, and I'm removing myself from love flowing kind of through people. I'm more of an obstacle for love to flow than a person that is bringing love. But if you don't love people, it's very hard to work with them, especially with your employees or your manager or your partners. I think it's a kind of cornerstone of successful, healthy entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that thought of like the different love languages. Like there's different ways love can appear in work and have meaning for people in different ways. And so putting it like that, no one's ever quite put it like that. So definitely a great answer. I love that.
It was John Choi, very successful entrepreneur, and who came up and said, "Here's love languages. Tell me what's yours." And I was like, "Well, obviously this is mine." And I was like, "Whoa, this is very interesting." Because now so he started with giving gifts to people, and some people really loved it. Some people was like, whatever. Because gifts for me is my last love language. So I don't understand giving gifts and receiving gifts. Like it just doesn't make any difference to me. But as soon as we find out who's, for example, at work, words of affirmation, whose love language is that, and we started practicing it, it changed the whole dynamic. It's a very good exercise for every business to do, is to just ChatGPT, work love languages, how do I get my company tested.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's my last love language too, right? If I want something, I'm just going to go buy it, right? So it makes it very hard for my wife and my kids to ever buy me anything. But Alex, that was fantastic. For our leaders that are listening, who want to innovate their work models, but they don't necessarily want to continue business the way that it's been. This is a great episode to be able to create a very strong connection using things like purpose and love. Now, for those that want to learn a little bit more about yourself, Alex, or about Ideal Sighting, where would you like them to go to do that?
Yeah, to learn more about company, they can go to idealsighting.com, and we're happy to work with new crews or new franchisees or new employees. And for me personally, I mostly use LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post some content once in a while.
Alex, thank you for giving us a look into how you lead and grow your business. And thank you to our listeners. As you think about your own organization, ask yourself, where your current model is helping people thrive and where it might be holding them back. So sometimes the future of work is less about new tools and more about having courage to redesign how we work together. So thanks everyone for joining us on the Bliss Business Podcast. We'll see you next time.